Hello and welcome back to Spooky Stitches. My name is Sheena Peril. I am a paranormal mystery author and knitwear designer from the Pacific Northwest. And this is a video podcast where we talk about making things, whether it is with yarn, fabric, or words. And today it is a yarn day. So we've got kind of two episodes back to back, just because I had so many finished objects that I made them into a separate episode with a little bit of a life update. I will put a link where you can watch that one. This episode is going to be a lot shorter. It is just my WIPs, and then we'll maybe do some other chatty stuff at the end. But we are on the bed today because of a very large WIP that I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. I'll turn the camera around so you can see it better. But I have to lay it out on the bed because it's an Afghan. So first up, what I'm wearing. This is a top that I finished, I think either last summer or the summer before. And this is I just called it a yoga top. It is self-designed. It has a racer back. I finished it on October 1st, 2024. So yeah, it is almost 2 years old. And I used I don't know what size needle I used. It is not in the Ravelry page, but I think it was probably a size 3. That's usually about what I use for tops like this out of fingering weight. And the lighter color stripes are Purple Lamb Sparkly Merino sock weight, and it's in the colorway Beautiful Universe. I believe that came from Etsy. And then the darker stripes are Teresa Retch Designs Tencel 5-2 dye painted. It didn't really have a colorway, it's just purple blue. And I used about 3/4 skein of each of those. And it came out pretty good. It does kind of show bra straps a little bit, but because of the style of the top, I'm not too concerned about that. I usually wear it over a sports bra anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's that like yoga top that fits loosely. You know what I mean. So I really only have 2 WIPs to show right now. The first one is another pair of the pumpkin head mitts that I've been working on, and I showed you a completed pair in the other video. Those were for Ash, and now I'm working on sizing the pattern. So I'm working on a pair for me. So this is my pair, and this is in Knit Picks. I believe this is Brava in the colorway Tranquil. Just using up some oddball worsted yarn. And this was supposed to be the size large, but it's actually pretty tight on me, which I'm not mad about because I do have some hypermobility in my thumbs. I like having that extra snugness on it. I like having the support. So this one is going to be the medium size. I am including Ash's size as the smaller one for people with smaller hands. And then I'm also going to do at least 2 sizes larger than this. And this will get finished with a couple of buttons, just like the other pair. So the wrist has a closure on it. And then this is the second mitt. And I've got one more cable twist to do before I do the thumb. And these are on size 5, 3.75 millimeter needles. Couldn't read it there for a second. Worsted weight yarn. I don't know what else to say about these other than, like I said, I'm working up the pattern for it. I really need to get better about writing patterns. Pattern writing is a skill that is very different from designing. I kind of excel, I like to think, at the designing portion. The pattern writing is a lot more difficult for me, especially with graded patterns. This is my first time grading a pattern. So, working on this. That one has been my main project, but I am trying to get through this next project, and I will explain why here in just a second once I turn the camera around. Okay, so this is a weighted blanket that I've been working on. It is all two-stranded double crochet, and then it has pony beads to add extra weight. And the way I did this is all leftover scrap yarn. One strand is always either this royal blue or it's black, and then the second color is just whatever leftovers I have. The pony beads are black. I got those from Walmart, and this blanket is pretty much all acrylic, pretty much all two strands of worsted, but there's some flexibility in that. Like there's some cotton, there's some blends in here. I have a couple of yarns that lean more towards the Aran end of the scale. I know I've got some DK and sport weight in here. It's just a mix of what all I had. And I am almost done with this. I think what I've been doing is 3 rows with beads and then 1 row without. And I think I've got enough beads left to do 1 more set of 3. Before I'm done, and then I need to do a border on it. And I'm trying to get this done as soon as possible because this is my current weighted blanket. It is a lot smaller, and you might be able to tell it's kind of a little raggedy. So I got this blanket about 6 years ago off Amazon. It's been discontinued since then, and it is bamboo with glass beads inside, which I specifically got because it was supposed to be cooling, and for the most part it takes a lot for it to absorb heat. But it has been through the wars. It was not designed for the amount of washing that a household with 4 cats and a clumsy human requires. And for the last week, I've been trying to figure out why it felt like I was sleeping on sand. And then last night I was like, what is this sparkly stuff in my bed? Why does it look like broken glass? It wasn't broken glass. It was tiny glass beads. And so I knew that it was shedding, so to speak, in the dryer. But now it is shedding when I use it. And I know that this is partially Puck's fault because he loves digging at stuff. He loves making biscuits. He has a particular vendetta against this blanket because it makes noise when it moves because of the glass beads. So I know that it has like teeny tiny micro holes in it where the beads are escaping because they're so small. And I have patched this blanket several times. I have redone the border on it. But it's just getting to the point where it is doing more harm than good by shedding glass all over the place. So I'm trying to get the handmade blanket done as soon as possible so I can replace this. Now, I am not sure yet how much the new blanket weighs. I'm going to weigh that as soon as I finish it. I am also not sure how comfortable it's going to be because of the plastic beads. So right now my plan is to pop it into a duvet cover because one of the things that I wanted to do with this blanket was I wanted it to be more closer to an actual like blanket size. The one that I purchased is more throw blanket. Like it's fine, but it's kind of small. It's a little too short for me. And I tend to starfish when I sleep, so I wanted something that was more full-size blanket. I'm going to add a border to this because it does need a little bit extra length, but I also really don't want to buy any more beads at this point. I think I used 16 or 18 packs of 500 beads. I don't know how much that is. I don't know that math off the top of my head. I don't know how much yarn I have used. I know that I have used the better part of 2 full skeins of black and 2 full skeins of blue. I tried doing the math in advance, and our neighbor's dogs are barking. They're fine. They do that noise every time someone walks past. It sounds like they're being murdered, but it's just someone walking past the window. Anyway, I tried doing the math in advance to figure out like how many beads I was going to need, how much of my solid color yarn I was going to need, and was coming up with truly ridiculous numbers, like needing hundreds of thousands of beads and like 18 skeins of yarn. Like I say, I'm from the fuck around and find out school of crochet. I'm really good at knitting math for the most part. Like I can look at a yarn and look at a pattern and pretty much eyeball how much yarn I'm going to need for that. But with crochet, it's a lot harder for me. Crochet uses a lot more yarn. How much yarn it uses varies widely based on the stitch. So I just dove in. I based that 3-to-1 ratio for beads based off of the first 4 rows that I crocheted. I felt the weight of the first 3 rows of beads, and I'm like, I think if I do this all beaded, it's going to be both uncomfortable and it's going to be too heavy. So I went ahead and just did the 3-to-1, and that's good because I'm using two strands of yarn, and that extra like blank row gives it a little bit more flexibility. Otherwise it would just be too stiff with the beads. So that is what I'm working on right now. It's basically just those 2 projects. So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to put on some Detective Anna. Actually, no, that's a bad choice. Detective Anna is subtitled. I'm going to find something that I can watch in the background, and I'm going to try to finish the body of this blanket. I would like it to be functionally done except for the border. So I'm going to go do that, and we'll film a little bit, and then I will check in at the end. I just filmed an update without hitting record. Anyway, so this is where we're at. I finished up this beaded row. I did this plain row, and now I'm working on my next beaded row. I'm using a 3.75 millimeter hook. Normally I would use a larger hook for crocheting with 2 strands of worsted, but the 3.75 was the largest hook I could get through the pony beads. So that's what I'm working with, and that's making a very dense, kind of stiff fabric. I don't mind it that much. I wouldn't want it any stiffer, but it is making a very dense blanket, which is what I wanted for the weight. This is how many beads I've got left. They're in the cauldron mug that I like to use. And I've got a pretty princess who wants to come over for attention because she knows I'm about to stand up, and she always wants attention when I'm about to stand up. And over here we have the basket with all of my scrap yarns in it. It is getting a little bit low, but I do have more in the living room. So I used up pretty much all of the scraps that I had. And then my mom gave me some of her scraps, and then I had a coworker come in and give me a huge tote that was stuffed with yarn. And I have given away at least half of it, but I kept the colors that I thought that I would use. And I'm working some of those into this project. And I've mostly just been using it for variety because the colors that I'm down to right now in my personal stash are like oranges, browns, yellows, reds, which are not my favorite colors, and it was getting too repetitive. I've actually got a pretty big chunk in this blanket that is all those colors, and I didn't want the last quarter of the blanket to be orange, basically. But I did 1 episode of Outlander to get those 3 rows done. I'm still on season 6. I'm behind. I'm stopped watching it at like season 3 or 4. And now I'm getting back into it. I think that's all I've got to say for right now. I'm gonna take a break, get something to eat because it's pretty hard on my hands and I need to refill my water, and then we will get back to it. This is the other reason why not a lot of crafting has been getting done. Blanket killer. So here is the blanket the next morning, and a kitten. And the blanket is functionally done. I still need to weave in ends, obviously, and I'm still working on the border. I did the first round of the border last night, but I'm going to stop this video here before my cat steals my chai. Again, sir. And I will show you the finished object completely done in the next podcast. So I will see you then. Bye-bye.